Good morning, and welcome to the second meeting of the Nevada Silver-Haired Legislative Forum. First, we will call the roll. For those members attending virtually, will you please turn on your cameras and respond when you hear your name? Madam Secretary, please call the roll. If a member is not present, please record that member as present when he or she arrives.
Ms. Lucille Aiden.
Here.
Ms. Dottie Ahrens. Ms. Joanne Bongiorno.
Present.
Mr. Jack Ginter.
Present.
Dr. Marilyn Jordan.
Present.
Ms. Lisa Laughlin. Ms. Laura Levitt.
Here.
Ms. Peggy Levitt. Ms. Mercedes Maharis.
Present.
Dr. William Marchant.
Present.
Ms. Terry Robertson. Ms. Betty Rumford. Mr. Fred Silberkraus. Mr. Roger Troth. Ms. Rosie Tyler.
Present.
Dr. Austin Wand.
Present.
Ms. Valerie Woods. And President Fran Alvarez.
Present. Madam Secretary, please indicate forum members Valerie Woods, Betty Rumford, Peggy Levitt, Lisa Laughlin, Doris Ahrens, and Terry Robertson are excused. Welcome to our audience in Las Vegas and to those joining us by video conference in Carson City and anyone listening over the internet. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment to go over some basic housekeeping items. Our meeting is video conference to Carson City. While everyone is encouraged to participate from whichever location is most convenient, we are willing and able to have these meetings made available by way of virtual participation over Zoom as well. I am asking our presenters on the Zoom video call to leave your cameras off and microphones muted until I call up the agenda item under which you will present or if I direct any questions to you. The Zoom video call has a chat feature. However, this feature is only to be used for technical assistance. Any links or information that you would like to share during your presentation should be stated verbally on the record. Members of the public should sign the sign-in sheet at each location, even if you do not intend to testify. When testifying, please remember to turn on your microphone and clearly state your name and the entity you represent at the beginning of your testimony. Speak directly into the microphone to ensure those listening in other locations and watching online can hear your testimony. Please remember to turn the microphone off when you finish speaking. Each witness should provide a business card and a copy of any written materials not previously submitted to the Secretary. Meeting materials provided to forum members for this meeting can be accessed on the forum's webpage. Individual public copies are also available in each meeting location. Anyone who would like to receive electronic notification of and access to the forum's agendas, minutes, and final report can do so by going to the Nevada Legislature's website and the following links. And finally, I would like to remind everyone to please silence all of your electronic devices, especially cell phones and laptops, during the meeting. With that, let us begin. I would also like to say, forum members, that in your packet there is a sheet that has Procedures for forum members. I would hope that you would glance at that and conduct yourselves accordingly. We will have public comment period at the beginning and end of the meeting. Speakers are urged to avoid repeating comments or points made by previous speakers. Any person may also submit written comments to the forum secretary during or after today's meeting. In addition to testifying in person, members of the public may provide public comment in 4 different ways, all of which are listed on the agenda. With that, we will move on to public comment. Members, please keep in mind that public comment is only for members of the public. We will start with public comment for those in the physical locations and then move to public comment for anyone who has called in. Is there anyone in Carson City who would like to provide public comment at this time? Seeing none, is there? What was that? I'm sorry, is there someone in Carson for public comment?
No, ma'am. I was just saying there weren't.
I don't know what he said. All right, thank you. Since there is no one in Carson City, we will go on to, is there anyone in Las Vegas who would like to provide public comment at this time? Please come forward. Seeing no one, our broadcast and production services staff will interact with those phoning in public comment and providing testimony to facilitate participation in the meeting. BPS, please add the first caller with public comment to the meeting.
If you'd like to speak in public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you'd like to speak in public comment, please press star 9 now. Caller with the last 3 digits of 060, you are unmuted. You may continue.
Thank you. My name is Tony Arcada-Payne, and I'm a student in the Doctorate of Public Policy program at UNLV. And I respectfully request that this committee support moving forward to create a task force to explore the future of long-term care costs to Nevada residents and the state, and to identify a public funding option to assist residents with these costs. Medicare and employer or private health insurance do not cover long-term care costs, so these costs must be paid for privately through long-term care insurance if you qualify for coverage, or with Medicaid if you qualify. According to the Department of Health and Human Services, 70% of seniors will need some form of long-term care in their lifetime. That means 70% of the people in this room today will require long-term care. On average, men, you can expect to pay more than $140,000, and women, you can expect to pay over $176,000 for this care in your lifetime. Long-term care costs are considered to be the largest financial risk seniors and their families living in the United States will face. The United States is considered to be one of the richest countries in the world, yet has no system in place to protect its citizens from these high costs. There are over 350,000 seniors in Nevada that will require long-term care in their lifetime. If Nevada had a long-term care public funding option in place, we would save residents on the Medicaid budget over $600 million if only 5% used these funds. Creating a task force to explore and identify a public funding option for long-term care would benefit seniors and their families and the state by providing funds to cover these costs. This is a win-win for everyone, so please let's reduce the financial burden on our seniors and the Medicaid budget by taking the first step in creating a long-term care finance task force to explore a public funding option. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me.
Chair, you have no more callers at this time.
Thank you. We will move on to agenda item 3, an overview of state initiatives to address negative impacts of climate change on senior citizens. We will hear a presentation from Mr. Jim Reed, Group Director of Energy, Environment, and Transportation of the National Conference of State Legislators. We will take questions from forum members at the conclusion of the presentation. Mr. Reed, you may proceed when you are ready.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and we appreciate the invitation to speak at your meeting today. I'm going to share my screen with a short slideshow with a few points to make today. Okay, is that visible to all of you?
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah, good morning. I'm happy to join you. I'm Jim Reed, the Director of NCSL's Environment, Energy, and Transportation Program, and here this morning to give you an overview of some state actions this year and last year related to protecting vulnerable populations, including seniors, as it relates to climate risks. NCSL is a bipartisan organization that works for all 50 state legislatures and the territories of the U.S. And our goal is to create opportunities for lawmakers across the country to get together and share ideas. And we do research on a bipartisan, nonpartisan basis in a whole variety of areas. These are some of the basic functions of NCSL: policy research, linking legislators together both in person and virtually. Training, we have a very robust training program for legislators and legislative staff. We also have a DC office that advocates on behalf of all the states. Supermajority of states come together and vote on policy positions at our summit every year, and those are represented by our staff in Washington, DC. And we hold a variety of meetings throughout the year on many subject areas. Today, the topic is climate impacts relative to our elders and our senior citizen population. And as you know, climate change is bringing the occurrence of greater frequency of extreme weather events, both in this country and across the world. And these are heat waves, drought, wildfire, more intense storms like hurricanes and thunderstorms and flooding. And these events are impacting our various populations, and in particular—
I apologize, Mr. Reed, this
Yes.
is broadcast. Can you go ahead and restart your screen share again, because it's not fully loading on our end?
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay.
Just to make sure, can you go ahead and click the next slide to make sure it's coming through clearly? Awesome, thank you so much. Can you also hit display settings so we could see a full screen?
Let's see here.
At the top of the screen, it says display setting. Yep, go ahead and click that.
Okay.
And then click swap presenter view and slideshow. See if that works.
That showing?
We do see your notes on the next slide. Give me one second.
Oh, okay. Let's see. So yeah, so you're seeing my display. I'm sorry about that.
Yes, we are. Go ahead and try the other display setting if you
Okay.
can.
Let's see.
At the top of the screen, go ahead and click display settings, that same button that you pressed prior.
Righty.
All right, and then at the bottom, go ahead and click that one icon. Yes.
Go. And then display settings. The other one, duplicate slideshow.
Yes, go ahead and click that one. Perfect. There we go. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mr. Reed.
Thank you for patiently walking me through that. My apologies for the slowness in getting this going, but we're going to basically move to some of the bills that NCSL has found pending and passed in state legislatures this year and last year.
I apologize to interrupt one more time, Mr.
Yes.
Reed. I'm so sorry. They are not seeing it in the Las Vegas room. So can you go ahead? I'll go ahead and stop your screen share, and then can you just restart the same thing that you did?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. Just give it 1 second to see if they see it in the rooms. Awesome. They could see it. Thank you so much.
Okay. This slide shows some state legislation that NCSL has tracked relative to climate impacts for seniors and other populations. And so you can see this on the screen. I'll briefly just hit on each one of these. In Arizona, there's a Senate concurrent resolution that is pending in 2022 that would put the legislature on record to support actions to enact policies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and support developing climate policy in collaboration and partnership with a variety of groups, including the terminology they use is the elderly and some others that you see here, labor unions and so forth. So that's a bill that's pending, or a resolution pending in Arizona. In California, this bill has passed in 2020, and it's called, it addresses home protection for seniors, severely disabled families, and victims of wildfire and natural disasters. And basically, this would limit property tax increases on primary residence for seniors and these other groups that need to replace or move or replace a damaged home. And so this gives a tax break for those instances where some kind of natural disaster may have impacted their primary residence. Hawaii has a bill pending that was introduced in 2021, still pending now, that relates to a climate change and human health adaptation coordinator. And this would be a state position establishing a specialist in climate change and human health adaptation that would work to establish plans and policies to adapt to climate change related human health issues. And they were listed in the bill, including these, but not limited to temperature related, death and illnesses, air quality impacts, extreme weather events, vector-borne diseases, water-related illnesses, food safety, nutrition, and mental health and well-being. And the elderly, again, is identified as an at-risk population in this particular piece of legislation. Let's see. I'm going to move to my next slide. Continuing in this vein on climate impacts, there were a couple of bills in the state of Illinois. One amended the Act on Aging that required the Department on Aging to distribute through the area agencies on aging information relative to safety issues, including emergency weather conditions, extreme heat and cold, flooding, tornadoes, electrical storms, and other severe storms that might occur. And this is specifically to alert seniors on safety issues to protect themselves during these events. And then a related bill was in the Nursing Care Home Act, where Section 11 deals with helping communities better respond to extreme heat and cold emergencies. I can provide more detail on that if you're interested. Finally, relative to climate impacts, Rhode Island had 3 bills that were all closely related. They're still pending that would establish a fee on companies that sell fossil fuels in Rhode Island at the point of sale, and the fund, there'd be a fund established to disperse these funds to various communities to mitigate some of the impacts of climate issues and to help build resilience in these communities. So these are the bills we've been able to find, and bills and resolutions in the states related to climate impacts. Let me move now to energy justice. Energy justice is a relatively new term. It does build off the tenets of environmental justice and refers to concepts related to equity, affordability, accessibility, participation in the energy system, and the energy transition that is underway. Those that advocate for energy justice, and these are examples of some bills that do look to reduce energy costs and burdens on low-income customers and to avoid disproportionate impacts on that are related to the energy transition. And this transition refers to the moving away of those energy resources that impact climate to those that are more classified more as clean energy sources. So the other element of energy justice, just to mention, would be looking at the equitable distribution of benefits of energy generation and transmission, and not disproportionately affecting certain communities with various energy siting and other types of decisions related to, say, transmission or energy development. So as you can see from this slide, we found there's 4 bills that are in this area of energy justice. One is in Missouri. It's pending this year. It's called the Missouri Climate Commitment, and it would set up this commitment requiring the state to assess impacts of greenhouse gas emissions to overburdened communities, which is defined here as those that are vulnerable in facing negative environmental and health impacts relative to climate. And state DNR would be in charge of looking at these impacts along with the Department of Health and Senior Services. There'd also be a council established called the Environmental Justice Council, and there would be funding for these programs. It's still pending in Missouri. In New York, a bill was introduced in 2021 called the Climate Community Investment Act, and it would prioritize investments around climate and clean energy for disadvantaged communities, of which senior citizen populations are part of that definition. And it would address some of the climate and energy transition issues that might disproportionately affect these communities. In Ohio, another bill pending is HB 429, called the Clean Energy Jobs and Energy Justice Act. And it's a broad bill addressing many aspects, but one part of it is a rebate program to give rebates to customers, consumers that buy or purchase household devices that have the Energy Star label. And there are provisions also that attempt to alleviate economic burdens to environmental justice communities. And these are, again, are the vulnerable communities that might be disproportionately affected by changes in the energy market. Finally, in Oregon, this was enacted last year. It was set clean energy targets, and a number of states have done this as well in prior years. And again, broad bill that focused some on environmental justice, and basically the goal was to reduce emissions by 100% by 2040, and required the implementation of policy and utility plans to consider the impacts on environmental justice communities. including senior populations. So that is the content of my presentation. We do have a summit every year. This year it's in Denver in August. I would certainly welcome any of you to attend, and we will cover this issue and many, many other issues that have an impact on our elder population. And this is where colleagues from across the country come together, about 5,000 in all. And so with that, I will leave it for any questions and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reed, for this presentation. I do have a question for you.
Yes.
You have 9 bills here in different states.
Yes.
Given the makeup of their legislatures, do they have a chance, any of these have a chance of passing? And if so, do any of these states have a governor that would sign that bill? The reason I'm asking is because last session we did have in Nevada a bill to require, I think it was 50% emissions by, it's either 2030 or 2035, and it didn't even get a hearing. So I'm curious as to where in these other states, how these bills are being accepted.
Yes, thank you for that question, Madam Chair. It's clearly there are different points of view relative to the parties, the partisan makeup of different legislatures, as well as which party holds the governorship in various states. And so some of these bills have already been passed into law. The California bill, the home protection bill for seniors and others was enacted in California. The Arizona Senate resolution is pending there, and it's hard to say whether the governor there would sign it. In Hawaii, there's that climate change and health adaptation coordinator bill would I think have a decent chance of being signed into law as well. But I think your bigger point is kind of the makeup of the legislatures and what the I guess emphasis would be on some of these. I do believe that members of both parties are well aware and cognizant of the needs of the elder population and would want to help them in any way they can. And so I could give you some more specifics on some of these bills, but that's my initial reaction to your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the forum members? Dr. Wand?
I wanted to ask a simple question on construction. Would anybody know about? I'm not sure how if these things are esoteric or not, but there's been news about doing try to be more green on construction, like for instance actually using carbon dioxide and mixing it with concrete, and that apparently would increase the strength of the concrete. It would cost more, but apparently might be offset by the need to use less concrete. And other things like using more prefab construction. So we have an existing building which is not well insulated, and just putting up prefabrication on it to decrease energy usage. And also, like in agriculture, some methods to try to decrease methane emissions from agricultural animals. Apparently, it's a lot of people would think it's coming from their elimination, but it's actually coming from their desert track, and they belch out all this methane, which is really bad for the environment. And their proposal on how to decrease that. And also for like waste dumps, apparently if you leave those dumps exposed, there's more exposure of their methane and so forth. So if you can cover those expeditiously, that'd be helpful. So those seem like relatively simple things, but I was wondering if there are any attempts to do more of these type of things.
Yes, thank you, Doctor, for your question. For your and your observation there is certainly on target with what our understanding of in the developments, the innovations, I think is what you're referring to in a variety of areas. You mentioned building codes and the capture of, say, methane. I know a few years ago, some of us were in Alaska for one of our meetings, and we were able to hear about the landfill that's there in Anchorage. They set up a system to capture the methane that was coming off the landfill and provided it to the nearby Joint Base Elmendorf Richardson to power some turbines for energy on that base. And so there are innovative opportunities out there that are being undertaken. You mentioned building codes. I live in Colorado, and as you're well aware, in Nevada as well, there's a high wildfire danger. And so there have been attempts to create building codes that are more fire resistant and the like, and be more cognizant of, I guess, green techniques, if you will, as you've suggested. These are difficult, and you've hit on the problem there. There's a cost issue. So, but I do believe in maybe smaller instances, maybe some areas are trying out these innovations, and certainly the legislature can be a catalyst for helping some of these. I'd be happy to, do a little more, bring some more information back to you on maybe some specifics around those topics you raised, if you'd be interested to see what kind of, I don't know if there would be incentives that a legislature could provide, or just partnerships that are available. I know that there are some of the national laboratories around the country are working with local communities on some of these innovative approaches in a variety of areas. So I think it's an excellent area for you to delve into, I think, in terms of some of the innovations that serve multiple purposes. In the case of the JBER instance that I just named, they captured the methane gas, so it didn't go into the environment, and then the base got power from that gas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Any more questions? Mr. Troth?
There, we hear me now? There we go. Roger Trotham, Senate District 18. Mr. Reed, does your organization, just some generic answers, not a lot of detail, talk about or have ideas about making more energy available in this environment to try and bring down costs of it? Does your group do some of that kind of research and study?
We do indeed. We do have an energy supply task force that meets periodically and talks about energy supply. That's in their name. And so they're very interested in looking at the broad range of energy choices and opportunities for increasing the supply of that. And I'd be happy to share some of the papers and some of the work that energy supply task force has taken on. Yes, indeed, it's been a significant issue for that group, and then their work feeds into our Natural Resources and Infrastructure Committee that then might bring larger issues to the group as a whole at our summit, the summit I mentioned that'll be occurring in Denver. A related issue to what you mentioned is transmission. There are resources out there, right? There's sun in the desert, but there's no transmission to get it into where it's needed. There's also microgrids, and there's a variety of innovative approaches that are out there to supply more power, more energy, more electricity in various places. And I'd be happy to share some of that work with you. We are, that group and NCSL is very interested in those topics.
Cost to offset these kind of issues are those plans that usually would take government tax money to subsidize or offset as we help people that are maybe less advantaged to be able to pay for that. Is that usually the concept when we talk about it in these kind of terms to help people?
Yes, thank you for that question.
Okay.
Certainly, that's one option, and it's an option taken by some states. There are other ways as well. It could be perhaps some kind of a partnership where companies would come together voluntarily and create some funding source to do that. Of course, government can also put regulations on businesses, though that is there are many requirements on utilities since they often operate in a monopoly kind of environment. And so it's a variety of approaches, I would say, but certainly the one you identified is one that some states, some legislatures have also adopted.
Now let's take America, for instance, of the transition from our traditional sources of energy to a significantly green type of thing, maybe some generalities, simple, easy, long-term, a lot in the cost of transitioning from our traditional energy sources to this new green functions that we continue to talk about and look at.
Thank you. So basically you want just some impressions about the costs
Yes.
associated with that energy transition, perhaps?
Yes.
There are lots of opinions and there's lots of research and perspectives on this question. I think what we've seen is that the market is innovating around many of the clean, if you want to call it clean energy sources. The market is providing these opportunities, and whether it be the establishment of wind facilities, the creation of wind turbine farms, or whatever it is, fields of turbines in places that have adequate wind. Same is happening with solar in terms of solar panels. You're seeing the market bring those to bear, and I think many companies have found that is a good investment to make. So I think it's a mix, like a lot of things are. It's a mix of public efforts and private efforts to make these opportunities happen and to bring innovation to new areas. And so, it's, I think if you talk to legislators involved with NCSL, they would say, many of them would say, we need to look at all the resources that are out there and use those that are perhaps regionally efficient for us. So, geothermal is an available resource in some places, but not others. The wind is here, but not there. The sun, is brighter here and not other places. So, fossil fuels are available in some places and not others. So I think one thing we're seeing is somewhat of a regionalization of energy supplies. And that's been going on for a while. You look at the Pacific Northwest, and there's a lot of hydropower in the Pacific Northwest because of the ability back in the day to create hydropower facilities from dams. I guess those are just some general comments, just some ideas that occur to me as we have this conversation today. Did you want to share any ideas? I'd be happy to listen to anything that you wanted to share as well.
No, I was just curious what your thoughts were, and that your group does look at some of the things. Thanks. I appreciate your inputs and your thoughts.
Yes, thank you for the questions.
For our members, anyone else have a question for Mr. Reed?
Yes, this is Lucille Aiden from Carson City. And I just had a question about solar. Do you think that would have an effect on the energy process during the summertime?
Are you referring to
Solar panels.
yeah, solar panels? So in the summertime, there'd be a lot more sunlight, and so the solar panels would produce more power. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Absolutely. I think, well, let me just say I am not an expert on solar panels by any means. And I know there's times of the year when they're more efficient than others. And so, but presumably in the hot summertime, where the heat or the bright sunshine of the summer, solar panels would probably be operating at 100% capacity, whereas other times of the year, not so much. That's what comes to mind.
Thanks.
Before we continue, I would just like to remind all forum members that except when you are speaking, please make sure your mics are turned off. It does give feedback to other folks. Ms. Maharis, you had a question?
Yes, I do. Good morning. I'd like to know if Mr. Reed knows of, okay, I guess I'm unmuted now, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any solutions that have been proposed in other states for homeless seniors, or data on how your work is affecting and going to affect seniors in the future?
Did you refer to homeless seniors, ma'am?
Correct.
We do have another program area that I'm not involved with at NCSL, but they are following variety of policy initiatives related to homelessness in general, and then specific populations of those that are homeless as well. And trying to create those partnerships and working with local governments and others that are have resources and care and have ideas about how homelessness might be alleviated. I myself don't have the expertise there to be able to answer your question, but I would be happy to share to bring any resources you might be interested in.
What division is that?
It's primarily in our children and families program area.
Okay, yes, I'd like to have any information that you can make available.
I will do so. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Anyone else? Any other forum member?
I have a question on electric charging vehicles, and I was wondering if it's worthwhile for states to pursue that if the federal government cannot pursue that. It wouldn't be a huge scale, but certainly the transition is for more electric vehicles rather than, especially with all these high gas prices. I wonder if that's worthwhile for states to pursue if the federal government doesn't take the initiative on trying to provide more networks of electric charging stations for vehicles.
Yes, Dr. Ward, thank you for that question. There is, under the Infrastructure Act that was passed by the Congress, there is a significant funding within that act to pay for a charging network for electric vehicles. And there are I believe both formula grants to states and local communities, as well as competitive grants for those that want to, create innovation and bring some new ideas, and so competitively apply for additional grant funding. So there is a pretty big chunk of funding. It's in the billions of dollars from the federal government out of that new infrastructure bill that was passed last November. So that's one area, and I think that's where states are now looking very significantly to tap that funding and start building those charging networks. But I think coupled with that, there are states that have that realize they want to make the commitment to electric vehicles and see that that is the infrastructure for charging is a key factor in the adoption of greater adoption, that is, of electric vehicles by consumers. And so those efforts are underway, but I think the big emphasis for the time being is on the new federal money that is available through, primarily I think it's available through the U.S. Department of Transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Seeing no other questions, trying to see anyone in Carson. I don't see any hands. Thank you so much, Mr. Reed, for your presentation. We'll be looking over your information, and our staff will be in touch with you about the information that the forum members have asked for so that you can supply that. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Thank you very much.
Moving on to agenda item 4, overview of climate change issues in Nevada and local initiatives to increase resiliency of seniors. The second agenda item will be an overview of the climate change issues, and we will begin this agenda with a presentation from Mr. Craig Peterson, Senior Air Quality Specialist with Washoe County Health District. He will be followed by Mr. Kevin McDonald, Public Information Administrator with the Clark County Department of Environment and Sustainability. Questions will be taken from forum members after the conclusion of Mr. McDonald's presentation. Mr. Peterson, please feel free to start when you are ready.
All right, thank you very much. For the record, my name is Craig Peterson, and I'm a Senior Air Quality Specialist in the Planning Branch of the Washoe County Health District Air Quality Management Division. Thank you for the opportunity to present information about how climate change is impacting air quality, especially on our senior population. Let's get straight to the point. Our climate is getting warmer. Temperatures are increasing, and Reno is one of the fastest warming cities in the United States. According to climatecentral.org, Reno's temperature has increased 7.7 degrees Fahrenheit since 1970. That's 5 degrees more than the national average. Not only are temperatures increasing, but heat episodes are getting longer. Here in northern Nevada, in 2018, we had 56 consecutive days of over 90 degrees. In 2021, we had 10 consecutive days of over 100 degrees. That may not seem like a lot in southern Nevada, but this is a significant change from what we're used to up here. Warmer temperatures directly and indirectly increase air pollution, and extreme heat is the leading cause of weather-related deaths in the United States. Cooling degree days are a measure of how hot the temperature was on a given day or during a period of days. A degree day takes the average between the high and low temperature for that day and compares it to a standard temperature, usually 65 degrees Fahrenheit. The difference between that average and 65 is the number of degree days. As you can see here, cooling degree days have been steadily increasing over the last 60 years, since 1960. Not only does this chart show increasing temperatures, but also increasing energy burden. Heat waves can be—
Sir, excuse me, this is Broadcast and Production Services. I just wanted to let you know that we are viewing your notes. If you could please turn your notes off and put it to full screen for the members. Thank you, sir.
Okay, that's what you need to see? Okay.
Yes, sir, we were seeing your notes before.
Okay. I don't think I had notes there, but okay. Do you see a cooling degree days chart right now?
Yes, sir, we do. You are good to go.
Okay, thank you very much. So again, not only does this chart show increasing temperatures, but also increasing energy burden. Heat waves can be especially challenging for households with high energy burdens, especially those who have difficulty affording the electrical bills to run their air conditioning, but face health risks, such as heat stroke if they do not run their AC. Older homes are less energy efficient and may not even have air conditioning. Besides increasing temperatures and increasing energy burden, climate change is affecting air quality. Forests upwind of us in California and Oregon are becoming more vulnerable to disease and fire. Fires and smoke events are happening more frequently, and they are larger and more intense. In the summer of 2021, smoke from the Dixie and Caldor fires resulted in the worst air quality Reno and Sparks has ever recorded. The increasing energy demand for comfort cooling is resulting in more pollution from power plants and motor vehicles. Vehicle miles traveled is also increasing, which drives up the amount of tailpipe emissions and precursors that are needed in the formation of secondary air pollutants, such as ozone. Here's a graphic showing the health effects of air pollution. PM 2.5, or fine particles, are those found in smoke and haze. These particles are so small that they can travel deep into the lungs and even be transferred to the cardiovascular system, causing serious health problems. Numerous scientific studies have linked particle pollution exposure to a variety of problems, including irritation of the airways, coughing, difficulty breathing, decreased lung function, aggravated asthma, irregular heartbeat, non-fatal heart attacks, and premature death in people with heart or lung disease. And then there's ground level ozone. Ozone is created by a chemical reaction between oxides of nitrogen and volatile organic compounds in the presence of sunlight. Breathing ground level ozone can trigger a variety of health problems, including chest pain, coughing, throat irritation, and congestion. It can worsen bronchitis, emphysema, and asthma. Ground level ozone can also reduce lung function and inflame the linings of the lungs. Repeated exposure may permanently scar lung tissue. Some populations are more vulnerable to air pollution than others. Sensitive groups, such as children, older adults, and people with underlying health conditions, including asthma, COPD, heart disease, and diabetes, are the most likely to be affected by particle and ozone pollution exposure. However, even healthy people may experience temporary symptoms from exposure to elevated levels of air pollution. That being said, older adults are more affected by lower levels of air pollution than healthy adults. AQI stands for Air Quality Index. Think of the AQI as a yardstick that runs from 0 to 500. The higher the AQI value, the greater the level of air pollution, and the greater the health concern. For example, an AQI value of 50 or below represents good air quality, while an AQI value of over 300 represents hazardous air quality. This chart is summarizing the highest AQI in 2021 by month. The orange and blue bars are particle pollution, and the blue line is ozone pollution. You can really see how the wildfire smoke over the summer drove the air quality index into the unhealthy, very unhealthy, and almost hazardous ranges. Here's another way to visualize air quality index data for 2021. We can look at the number of days per month the AQI was in various categories. Where we used to see our worst air quality in the winter has now shifted to the summer. You can see the greatest number of unhealthy days in 2021 was in July and August. What can you do about high temperatures and poor air quality? Well, in the short term, make sure you listen to your body. If you are experiencing difficulty breathing, shortness of breath, wheezing, coughing, sore throat, chest pain, or fatigue, take precautions. Know the AQI and weather forecasts. If the temperature is high or the AQI is over 100, reduce outdoor activities or stay inside. Close your windows and doors and run your central air conditioner if you have one. If you have a window-mounted AC unit, make sure the vent to the outside is closed and run it in recirculation mode if available. It's best not to run swamp coolers as they just bring more smoke inside. You can also purchase indoor air purifiers with HEPA filtration to help clean the air inside your home. In the long term, we urge you to support legislation, codes, and ordinances that support the reduction of urban heat islands and the reduction of motor vehicle emissions. An urban heat island occurs when a city or urban area experiences higher temperatures than outlying areas. Structures such as buildings, roads, and other infrastructure absorb and re-emit the sun's heat more than natural landscapes such as forests and water bodies. Examples of existing plans and programs in our area include Nevada's Climate Initiative, Reno's Sustainability and Climate Action Plan, Reno's Tree Protection Ordinance, RTC Washoe's Smart Trips program, and the Governor's Office of Energy HEROES program. The Home Energy Retrofit Opportunity for Seniors, or HEROES program, for example, is a program that assists with reducing energy costs for Nevada seniors by improving the energy efficiency of their home. This results in improved home energy conservation, lower monthly energy costs, and helps seniors live in healthier, safer homes. The program is provided at no cost to income qualified seniors who own their own home. Here are a few takeaways from today's presentation. Air pollution and heat episodes are trending upward, becoming more frequent, longer in duration, and more severe. The solutions will require effort from everyone. Support legislation that supports strategies for climate change adaptation, including managing heat risk and improving air quality to protect human health and the environment. Increasing tree canopy coverage will have multiple benefits for all, especially older adults. Support the Reimagine Reno Master Plan, Reno Sustainability and Climate Master Plan, and the Urban Forestry Management Plan to increase the tree canopy, maintain a healthy, equitable urban forest, and promote community partnerships. Thank you again for the opportunity to present information about how climate change is impacting air quality and our senior population. I'd be happy to take any questions or comments.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. If you could wait for us until after Mr. McDonald's presentation, the forum members will have questions at that time.
Okay.
Mr. McDonald, if you are ready, you may start.
I'm ready. Thank you very much to the forum for inviting me today. Following up on what Mr. Peterson just shared, I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing here in Clark County, talk a little bit about air quality and climate change issues, and what we're doing and most importantly, what people can do to prepare themselves. So just a little bit about who we are. I'm with the Department of Environment and Sustainability, and that actually encompasses 3 divisions. Our largest is the Division of Air Quality. We also have the Desert Conservation Program and also the Office of Sustainability, and I'll speak more to that office in a moment. Desert Conservation Program, you probably know through their Mojave Max program, our desert tortoise mascot. With regard to the Division of Air Quality, we are the air pollution control agency for Clark County. We're about 100 full-time employees working across all 3 of those divisions. Sustainability is our newest division. The Division of Air Quality is the permitting body for Clark County, meaning businesses have to apply for and get approved for an air permit to operate in Clark County. Those businesses include gas stations, construction companies, asphalt plants, even our casinos. Essentially, it's if you have a boiler or emit pollutants into the air, you need to get a permit from us. In addition to being the permitting body, we're also the compliance enforcement body for the county, making sure that all of our permitted sources are operating within the parameters of their permits, maintaining the national ambient air quality standards. Now, we talk about ozone as our greatest air quality challenge here in Clark County, and it is. There are 6 criteria pollutants for which we monitor and regulate. ozone, particulate matter, nitrogen oxide, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and lead. We're in attainment by all federal standards for 5 of those 6 criteria pollutants. The 6th one we're in marginal attainment for is ozone. And ozone, it is our greatest challenge because of a lot of factors. And one of the things I want to talk about is what causes ozone. But first, when we talk about ozone, we think of it often as a good thing because in the stratosphere, it protects us from harmful UV rays. At the ground level, it can be harmful to breathe, and it is an odorless and colorless gas. It's especially harmful for those with breathing sensitivities, with asthma or COPD. Children, older adults, even your pets can be affected by this. Now, just to give a little background of what causes ozone, it's caused by a chemical reaction of what's called volatile organic compounds combining with nitrogen oxides, and those cook in the sun in UV rays, and that creates ozone. So volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, think of it as anything that puts off a fume. So that could be fuel, chemicals, paint, even organic material, vegetation puts off a fume. An orange can put off a fume. Those will work with things that combust. NOx, nitrogen oxides would be vehicles, fire, industrial emissions. And we have 300 days of sunlight here in Clark County, so naturally this becomes a perfect oven to cook ozone. And some of those harms, as Mr. Peterson alluded to, decrease of lung function, aggravation of asthma, throat irritation, and so on. Now, it mixes together like a stew. When we talk about how that looks in the summertime here, the current EPA standard for an exceedance day in Clark County is ozone concentrations have to be at 70 parts per billion over an 8-hour average. And if you take that 70 parts per billion measurement, the current standard, and take it back to 2003, you can see that has decreased here in Clark County. I'm not suggesting that we don't have an ozone issue here, because we certainly do. But if you look at 2003 compared to today, we've cut it in half in terms of exceedance days, but we still have a lot of spikes in there. And one of the factors there is we have 1.6 million registered vehicles here in Clark County, and we know that vehicle emissions are a major contributor to ozone. Now, if we removed all the vehicles here in Clark County, we likely wouldn't have an ozone problem, but we still would have ozone because it is naturally occurring. And one of those pollutants that also impacts ozone is wildfire smoke. Now, I'll get to more of that in a moment, but what you can do to help reduce ozone, because there's not a lot that individuals can do, but we do encourage folks that with your vehicles, the way you drive your vehicles can help reduce ozone. Don't idle your vehicle unnecessarily. For example, if you're going to go to Starbucks or to get lunch, instead of going to the drive-through, to get out of your vehicle and go inside. Reduce driving or use mass transit. Keeping your car well maintained, because a well maintained vehicle will burn fuel more efficiently. Filling your gas tank after sunset is one of my favorite tips to give for reducing ozone, because if you think about when you fill up your gas tank, you're putting off a fume from the pump, and that gets into the sunlight, and that helps cook ozone. You do this after sunset, and it helps reduce. Using less gas-powered lawn equipment, turning off your lights, electronics, and also consider buying an electric vehicle if you're on the market for a new car. Now, I mentioned earlier that wildfire smoke can influence ground level ozone formation. So like ozone, it can be harmful to breathe, even when it comes from hundreds of miles away, as we've seen here in Clark County. And wildfire smoke, in addition to contributing to ozone formation, also contributes to particulate pollution. I want to show you a couple images. This is an image taken from our visibility camera at the M Resort south of town, facing north toward the Strip. This was August 11th at 7:45 a.m. A little bit hazy there in the morning, as you would expect for that time of year for ozone, but overall a fairly clear day. Now, exactly 4 days earlier, this was the view from that same camera. That is wildfire smoke, what we're looking at there. That was that big wildfire smoke incident that occurred last summer. Came in on a Friday night, and that's what we woke up to. If you remember that day, if you were outside, you could see it, and you could smell it, and you could taste it. It was easily one of our worst air quality days, if not the worst air quality day we had all last year. Now, that smoke traveled from hundreds of miles away to get here. And not only does that, the only thing you can say about that level of wildfire smoke is when it gets that thick, you no longer have an ozone problem, but you have a particulate matter problem. So that graph I showed you earlier, here's how wildfire impacts ozone formation. These are our previous 5 years of ozone exceedance days. Now, in 4 of those 5 years, we had wildfire smoke influence heavily on our ozone formation. And 1 year we had no wildfire smoke in Clark County, and that was 2019. And we only had 3 ozone exceedance days. So the challenge that we run into here is we can do everything right from an air quality, from a department standpoint, dealing with air quality in terms of regulating and enforcing compliance, and still we'll deal with ozone exceedances because of something that's completely beyond our control. So what's causing this? It's what's causing increased wildfires in the western United States. It's drought, extreme heat, and then we also have to factor in greenhouse gas emissions that are helping turn up the heat. And these are what comes down to coming from climate change and causing climate change. And Las Vegas is the fastest warming city in the United States currently. By mid-century, we're projected to have 30 days per year of 106 degrees or hotter. And I know we all live in a desert and we all expect it to be hot in the summertime, but it is getting hotter. So what we're doing about it, we have launched an initiative called All in Clark County through our Office of Sustainability. This is the county's action to combat impacts of climate change in Clark County now and for future generations. We've broken it into 2 phases, county operations and a community-wide sustainability and climate action plan, which is what we're currently working on. Now, in the county operations plan, which is already underway, development and implementation of codes, policies, and procedures that improve the resilience of our operations. That includes, looking to improve alternative energies, fleet electrification, water conservation, and smart waste management and reduction. On the community and sustainability climate action plan, that goes beyond just our internal county operations. This effort also includes the local business community, organizations, and individuals who are coming together to develop a plan to build a more sustainable and resilient Clark County. Currently underway, we completed our greenhouse gas emissions inventory. We are working on our climate vulnerability assessment, and upon that completion, we will roll out the community sustainability and climate action plan. And that climate action plan is broken into 6 areas: clean and reliable energy, connected and equitable mobility, diverse and circular economy, sustainable water systems, resilient and healthy community, and smart buildings and development. It's a lot to absorb, and I realize that. All the information you can find is at allinclarkcounty.com. We have all the information about the county operations plan, the community plan, and there's also, under the Get Involved tab, a survey that we're inviting people to take throughout the community. There's an incentive. We will be giving away a $100 grocery gift card at the end of all that. But the important thing is we want people's input and feedback to move forward on our community plan. And once again, that's allinclarkcounty.com. So now moving back to what we're doing about wildfire and ozone in Clark County. Every year we issue a seasonal ozone advisory. This year was the first time that we issued a seasonal wildfire smoke advisory to go along with it. That runs from April 1st until September 30th. And the sad reality is wildfire smoke has become our new normal here in Clark County, and it's not coming from anywhere near Clark County. We also commissioned a study last year with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, to take a closer look at the pollutants in our air to see what is actually in our ground level ozone. We're awaiting those results. We will continue to enforce compliance with our permitted business community, and primarily want to keep you all informed as well. And I'll have more information on how to stay informed later. The bottom line is we have to make Clark County more sustainable and more resilient, and that's going to take a group effort. Now, for the individual, how you can protect yourself is to limit your outdoor exertion on those days when air quality might be in the unhealthy range, or if we have wildfire smoke. Keep your windows and doors closed, run your air conditioner, change your air filters frequently, and if you like to be outside with activities, schedule those in the morning or the evening, and consider less intense activities. If you're a jogger, consider walking on those high ozone days. And also, of course, consult your doctor or physician. In terms of staying informed, there are several ways that we want people to keep in touch with us. We share all of our daily air quality forecasts across all our social media channels. You can find us on Facebook by searching Sustain Clark County, on Twitter, Sustain Clark CTY, on Instagram, Sustain Clark County. If you go to enviroflash.com, you can sign up for daily text or email messages of our forecasts and advisories and alerts. And also, if you download the AirNow app on your phone, you can get real-time air quality information. Staying informed is really one of the most important things that you can do in terms of dealing with air quality issues. And here also, this graphic is our monitoring site at desaqmonitoring.clarkcountynv.gov. And that graphic, what you're looking at there, all those little colored squares with numbers in them, that is our network of monitoring stations. There are 18 of them throughout Clark County. And when I captured this image, the yellow, that's when it's moderate. Green is good. And you see the color coding in the AQI that Mr. Peterson referred to earlier. So that's what you can also go to that site for the forecast and other information if you like. I thank you for your time. One more thing. If you see or smell something, it's important that we hear from you, the citizens, as well. A lot of our notices of violation that we will write and a lot of our inspections stem from people who call our air quality complaint hotline. And that's if you're seeing too much dust at a construction site, there are industrial emissions, cannabis production odor, it might be getting too strong. You can reach us via the telephone, 702-385-DUST. You can send us an email at dusthotline@clarkcountynv.gov. And we also have a form you can fill out if you go to aqms.clarkcountynv.gov. I thank you for your time. And now I think Mr. Peterson and I are available for questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peterson and Mr. McDonald. These reports are very eye-opening to me, and I'm sure to many of our forum members. I do have one question, Mr. McDonald. We do have an alert, that we sign up for that buzzes our phone if there is bad weather, like a storm. Have you considered maybe for like a really, really bad air quality day like we had on Saturday, August 7th, that could be incorporated into that?
Thank you for the question. We have considered that, and we're looking into those options there. The National Weather Service, I believe, issues those alerts. And what we do, we will send out, the closest we have right now is if you sign up for the text messages through EnviroFlash, you will get a text message on those days when we have to issue an advisory, and also you get the forecast. But we are also looking into other avenues for those days when it is dire. But outside of wildfire smoke, because we will have some days this summer, I'm sure, when ozone will be up in the unhealthy range as well. We only get a couple a year, but still, we want to make sure that people are aware. So even though we're under that blanket of a seasonal advisory, we do send out frequent messages, especially via social media, on those days when the air quality is going to be closer to the unhealthy range. But yes, we will continue looking into that as an option.
Thank you very much. Forum members, if you have questions, please direct them to either Mr. McDonald or Mr. Peterson when you are asking. Do we have anyone with a question? Ms. Maharas, go ahead. I think we have lost contact with Ms. Maharis. Dr. Wand, you had a question?
No, I'm.
Yes, this is not a huge issue, but I was wondering if anybody from any of the agencies, either Mr. McDonald or Mr. Peterson, would. I live in a relatively small community with about 2,000 houses, and we have an entity that have an HOA association. They plan to be around for more than 5-10 years and so forth, yet they will not consider solar panels for their buildings. And the reason for that is because the membership doesn't want to pay for that. So I was wondering if there's any kind of way to get some kind of government incentives for larger groups to put in solar panels on the public buildings.
Thank you, Dr. One. I can start. I know through All in Clark County, we're looking into those options right now. I don't know if any decisions have been made because it's very early in the process, but we are looking at renewable energy options on certainly public buildings as well as what the community can do.
Dr. Jordan?
Yes, my question is for Mr. McDonald, for the record. Recently, we've had a large number of days consistently with windy days, and the impact is getting stronger. This seems to be unusual for this time of the year. Could you speak on that a little?
I can. Thank you for the question, Dr. Jordan. Typically, and I rely on my forecasters and my department for this information, and they've shared with me that in April into May can be our windy season. This year has been certainly windier than years past, and that has definitely contributed to a lot of the dust that we have seen that I think we just saw over the Mother's Day weekend. And the best we can do in that situation is we will issue construction notices on high wind days as well. Not days that will trigger a dust advisory, but to our construction sites, we will issue a construction notice on high wind days to instruct them to take more efforts to keep the dust down, keep the soils wet and such. But otherwise, Mother Nature can really play a huge impact, and there's not a lot we can do to stop that, especially with the dust that's being blown in from other places or just kicking up the dust in general. But that's why for the average citizen, staying informed is important, but also we do take those efforts with our permitted community, business community, to ensure that they're not contributing to that.
Thank you so much, both to you and Mr. Peterson. We appreciate your presentation today.
Thank you.
Ms. Maharis, go ahead.
Yes, sorry about the sound here. I would like to ask both gentlemen about how we balance tree canopy, urban forest with water use, and because they're both environmental. And if we want to have trees, then how are we going to impact water? Which is more important?
I can start there. Thank you very much for the question. One thing you can do is you can use stormwater management and use some stormwater runoff to actually water the trees. So that's one solution to the problem. Not the solution, but that is one thing that you can do to help with that problem.
In terms of water use, I'm not 100%, I don't have that information in front of me. I do know that adding more trees in Clark County is one of our priorities in terms of combating the urban heat island effect and extreme heat here in Clark County. And I will have to defer to my colleagues with the All in Clark County initiative on that. They do address this within the plan, I can tell you that. So at allinclarkcounty.com, a very comprehensive plan is there, and we do discuss tree canopies and water usage, because obviously water is a tremendous concern here in southern Nevada, and we don't want to contribute to the problem.
Thank you so much for your information.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Troth?
Roger Troth from District 18 again. For both of you, kudos or good things on the public service announcement systems that I think both of you do in trying to get out alerts and information on certain things. I think that's good. We hear them all the time. Mr. Peterson, in the Reno area, your last bullet on the takeaways, how are you folks funding your tree canopy campaign that you're doing there?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure where the funds are coming from. That may be a question more for the urban forester in the city of Reno. So, sorry, I don't have that answer.
Okay. No, that's fine. And then Mr. McDonald, again, some great things. And I guess for both of you and all of us, we live in a desert, even in Reno, it's kind of like that. We've had extensive population growth in the 40-something years I've been around here. And so a lot of these issues are derived from us living in that environment, and we continue to add people to it. So, and maybe Mr. Peterson, if you'll start, and then Mr. McDonald, is that taken into significant consideration when you put together some of these concepts and ideas to try and deal with some of the issues that we have in the whole state of Nevada?
I mean, certainly as more people come into the area, you're going to have more motor vehicles and vehicle miles traveled, and that all feeds into the problem. So, motor vehicles and energy production are going to be two of your biggest contributors to air pollution. So, this is all taken into consideration.
Thank you.
From the Clark County standpoint, yes, it's also being taken into consideration on several levels, including urban planning, as well as Mr. Peterson made reference to vehicles. That's one of the other areas of this that's really important, is expanding the electrification for vehicles. So more, I lost my train of thought, forgive me. More charging stations and just bolstering that and having greater access. As more and more electric vehicles come online, we have to be prepared for that so that they don't have to go to just a handful of places, that we have more charging capabilities there.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I would like to thank Mr. Peterson and Mr. McDonald very much for your presentations. They were very enlightening, and we do appreciate your time and energy to put these together for us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Forum members, we are going to take a very short break, hopefully 10 minutes, if you all can be back here by, say, 20 till 12, and we'll continue. Thank you. Forum members, we are getting ready to start. We're just waiting on BPS. Forum members, we're back in order. Moving on to agenda item 5, an overview of energy demands with extreme weather events and assistance for senior citizens. We will now hear an overview of energy demands with extreme weather events and assistance for senior citizens. This presentation will be given by Ms. Jennifer, and forgive me if I don't say your name correctly, Shurit. Thank you. Director of Corporate Communications and Integrated Marketing for Nevada Energy. We will take questions from the members at the end of the presentation. Ms. Shurit, please feel free to begin.
Awesome. Thank you. Right, so yeah, thank you for the opportunity to be here and talk about options we have to help our customers, including our senior citizens, save energy and be more energy efficient, no matter what the temperature, but especially in the heat of the summer. Just a little background on NV Energy. We've been around for more than a century, meeting the energy needs of our state. We have, you can see, a large service territory down from Laughlin all the way to Elko to Lake Tahoe. We have more than 2,300 employees serving our customers. And then we're more about than just keeping the lights on. We also volunteer in the community, and our foundation and our company gave more than $5 million last year to hundreds of Nevada nonprofits, ones that serve the environment, workforce development, health and wellness, as well as education. So grid resiliency, we are very proud to have some of the best reliability in the nation. We are among the top in the nation for the number of the fewest outages and the shortest number of outages, but we continue to seek ways to make our grid more resilient, more clean, especially in light of more extreme heat and demands due to climate change. Right now, we are working hard to make sure we have enough energy and supply to meet needs in the summer, and working to make our grid more resilient to the impacts of climate change through our Natural Disaster Protection Plan. This really focuses a lot on wildfire mitigation efforts, improving our system to make it more resilient to winds in order to prevent wildfires and also reduce the impact of a natural disaster on our customers. So as we get ready for the summer, I think it's important that customers know that they do have a lot they can do to control how much energy they use, and also to be more clean, to reduce their own carbon footprint. So I'm going to go through some energy efficiency tips, things we recommend for customers that could help them save between 10 and 25% on their energy bills. The first one deals with your air conditioner. Your AC usage in the summer is about half of your bill. That usage contributes to about half of your bill. So we recommend keeping your thermostat set to 78 degrees or 80 when you're home, and then setting it a little bit higher when you're not home or at night. If you have a pool pump, you only need to run it for 8 to 12 hours a day. I think it's a misconception that you need to run it 24 hours. AC, pool pumps, and a refrigerator in your garage or a freezer are the 3 biggest contributors to your energy use, especially in the summer. So a lot of our programs focus on reducing your AC usage as well as your pool pump and other large appliances. And one thing you can do is vacuum your refrigerator coils. I don't think people add this to their spring cleaning checklist, but this goes a long way to making your refrigerator run more efficiently. Simply doing things like closing your blinds and drapes when it's hot outside to keep your home cooler, and then running large appliances as late in the evening as you can, your dishwasher, your washer, your dryer, because what those do is they add heat to your home. So if your home is more hot, your AC is going to kick on and have to work harder to get back to your set temperature. And then ceiling fans can go a long way to cool people and pets while they're in the room. So when you're not in the room, turn them off because they're not doing any good. So in your room, turn them on. When you're not, turn them off. But that lets you bump your AC up a little bit, so you don't need to run it at maybe that 78. You can bump it up to 80 and use your fans. So these are the tips. These are things that anyone can do, available to anyone. But to help you implement these tips, we have quite a few products and services through our PowerShift suite to help our customers. So the first one is our smart thermostat. There is a picture here, I'll go back, of our Ecobee thermostat. We provide our customers, any residential customer is eligible, whether they rent or own, to get this free smart thermostat. It's a digital programmable thermostat. You can operate it from your phone. It allows you to set your temperature. It's going to be able, you can be in your bed, and if you want to raise it up or lower it, you can be downstairs, you can raise it or lower it. It lets you set schedules. It really helps you be more efficient to keep it at that 78, or if you're bumping it up and you're out of town, something we do with ours, we're out of town, we're going to be home in about an hour, we'll turn the AC on, get it back down to 78 so it's ready when we come home. The smart thermostat is also a really important program that we use when the temperatures are really high in the summer, when there's high energy demand. This smart thermostat program allows us to implement these community events. And what that means, if you have a smart thermostat, if you're part of our program, during times of highest energy demand, we're going to give you notice, but we're going to increase the temperature of that thermostat by several degrees for about 3 hours to reduce the demand on the system. Once that event is over, it'll go back down to its normal temperature. But it's a really important program, especially when we do have a lot of energy use. It helps reduce the amount of power we have to buy on the open market, which helps everyone save energy or save money. The next thing that we do to get homes ready for the summer, once again, this is available to anyone, whether you rent or your own, is a home energy assessment. This service will have one of our energy advisors come into your home. They look at your AC system to make sure it's efficient. They actually check the temperature as it comes out of the vents. They look at your seals. They look at your AC system if you have one external, if it's outside, to make sure there's nothing blocking it. They look at your different appliances to make sure they're efficient. And at the end of that assessment, they are going to give you tips to lower your energy use. They're going to give you really tangible things that you can do. We also offer an online energy assessment. If you don't have time to have someone come into your home, you can go to nvenergy.com to My Account and do an online energy assessment, putting in information about your home and your appliances, and it'll give you similar personalized tips on how to save energy. We offer a service that combines the smart thermostat and the home energy assessment into one appointment. It's called the PowerShift Bundled Appointment. If you sign up for a bundled appointment, we're going to do that. We're going to come to your home, do an energy assessment, and then install the smart thermostat at the same time, as well as give the customers a variety of LED light bulbs, smart power strips, and sensors for the refrigerator, temperature sensors, just to keep your home running as efficient as possible. These services are all free to our customers, and we really encourage them to take advantage of them because they can go a really long way to lowering your energy use and keeping your bills stable, especially in the hot times of the summer. We offer a service called Qualified Appliance Replacement, and this is for our low-income customers. It's income eligible, and for customers who qualify, they receive a free energy-efficient refrigerator, as well as an energy-efficient electric dryer. They can get both appliances if they meet the criteria, and the criteria is based on income, but also on the age of the existing appliances. This is something that's relatively new. It's about, I think, 2 years old. So we're really excited about this opportunity because once these appliances are in the home, once again, it's really helping lower bills, lower your energy use, making you more energy efficient. We have a variety now of home appliance rebate programs. 2 of them we've had around for several years. The first one is an AC rebate program. If your AC is close, it needs to be upgraded, you've had it for a while, and you want to invest in an energy efficient model, which we hope you do, we have rebates available to make that investment in an AC program. Going back to pool pumps, we have a rebate for customers if they want to invest in a variable speed pool pump. Variable speed pool pumps will, once again, set the schedule. They're going to run when they need to run. Over the course of ownership of a variable speed pool pump, in addition to the rebate, they're going to pay for themselves in your energy savings. They really have a big impact. Part of that pool pump program is if you already have a variable speed pool pump, we'll give you a rebate to help calibrate it to make sure it's running in tip-top shape. And new to our home appliance rebate program is additional products. We'll be able to look at select washers, dryers, and air purifiers, so offering rebates on those products as well. These programs are currently being not developed, but getting ready for the summer, and they're going to be available at the end of this month. So you can go to our website and get the information you need and look at our social media channels, look at nvenergy.com, look hopefully on the media to find information about that. But these tips and information on all these programs and how to sign up are available at nvenergy.com/powershift. So in addition to our energy efficiency options, we do offer some electric vehicle products and services. Right now, we are working with the state of Nevada to invest $100 million in electric, it's called our Economic Recovery Transportation Electrification Plan. So this is a product of Senate Bill 448 at the last legislative session, which now gives us the opportunity to invest over $100 million over the next 3 years to build out charging station infrastructure. You know, NV Energy has a long history with building vehicle electrification in Nevada. We offer time of use rates for customers who own electric vehicles. We have tools on our website to help you make a decision, a calculator. We offer events. We actually have a couple events coming up in the next few weeks, one in Northern Nevada, a ride and drive event, so customers can come and get behind the wheel of an EV. That event will be here in Southern Nevada on June 4th. So really the education, but now we're really stepping it up with this new program, like I said, to invest $100 million in the state of Nevada to build out charging infrastructure with a focus on historically underserved communities. You go to our website now, you can find information on all the different aspects of those programs, opportunities for businesses to apply for grants if they're looking to electrify their fleet, to build that infrastructure. You can go in and pick places where you think a charging station needs to be, and we'll take all that input and use it as we develop the plan moving forward. So in addition to energy efficiency, we offer a lot of assistance options for customers who may need help managing the cost of their bills. Here in Southern Nevada, we offer a program called Project Reach, which is available for seniors 62 and older to help offset the cost of a past due balance. That amount now is $300. You can get up to $300 off the cost of that. We offer the Senior Energy Assistance Expo. That's coming in August, and that's a place where the assistance, let me backtrack, it's available year-round, but if you go to our Senior Energy Assistance Expos are opportunities for customers to come and meet face-to-face with our customer service agents to apply in person for Project Reach, but also ask questions about the other payment things that they may be eligible for, different assistance options, and just learn more about the products and services. We know that face-to-face interaction is really important, and we're really glad to go back in person in 2021, and we'll be doing it again later in the summer. In Northern Nevada, we offer an energy assistance program that's available to any customer, regardless of age, but based on need. So that's something that we really encourage customers to look into, whether, no matter what age they are, if they do need a little help, we are here for them, and we want them to take advantage of these energy assistance opportunities. Last year, we funded about $800,000 in these energy efficiency programs, so it's there for our customers, and we want them to use it. In addition to the bill assistance programs we provide, there are some really important customer programs. We offer the Equal Payment Program, and what that does is take your energy use from if you're in the same home, from the last 12 months, and it'll give you an average payment for the year ahead. That helps you manage your budget. It helps offset that summer spike in bills. Like I said, bills can go double or even triple based on energy use in the summer. We don't raise the rates. It's just use that contributes to those high bills in the summertime. But the Equal Pay Program can really go a long way toward having more manageable expenses. And then another program we offer is Green Cross. And this is for anyone who relies on electrically operated medical equipment 24 hours a day. So if you rely on that, someone in your home relies on that, we want you to please let us know so that if we have a planned outage coming up, we can give you that advance notice. This is really it's been really important as we implement something called our Public Safety Outage Management Program. And that is here in Southern Nevada, we implement it in Mount Charleston. It's something we do in our extreme or elevated fire risk areas, that if we feel that the fire danger is very high, we'll shut off power for a certain amount of time just to ensure the safety of our customers, to make sure that something doesn't blow into our lines and potentially spark a wildfire. So customers who are on our Green Cross program get advance notification of these potential outage events, and we provide them hotel accommodations during the outage. So this concludes the main part of my presentation. Welcome your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Sherrick. We appreciate your time and willingness to offer this useful information to the forum. Are there any questions, forum members? Dr. Wand?
No, I have a very simple question on the charging stations. I've actually had the experience of going to charging stations, and when my plug-in device didn't work. So, like just with in the computer devices, there's different kinds of adapters and so forth. And I'm sure you've considered it, but it's really important that if you have the charging stations, you have the right devices so people can whatever EV vehicle they have can plug into it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's going to be where we're going to have. Let me back up. I'm not sure what type of chargers we are going to have at the charging stations. I can find out for you. I know that they're going to be DC fast chargers available for customers. Okay.
Mr. Troth?
Ms. Sherritt, thanks for your presentation. Thanks for hanging around for the extra almost 2 hours to do the presentation. First, overall comment, I think Nevada Energy does a pretty good job in public relations and getting the word out on a lot of these programs. And I think that's your realm, so that's good. A couple questions. On the smart meter or thermostat program, that's volunteer, right? You have to sign up and agree to that.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, being a part of the program, you're volunteering to participate in the energy events, but they are voluntary. Once you can go in and lower your thermostat back if you need to.
Everybody understands that you, as Nevada Energy, can go in and adjust
right. They're called
thermostats. Mm-hmm. Do you ever anticipate shutting power off to people? Is that an option?
Because of demand?
Yeah, whatever event happens, can Nevada Energy go in and turn off those people that are volunteers in this to save energy?
If you're a part of the smart thermostat program, that doesn't make you more eligible or not for any sort of outage. It's just merely we call it demand response, so helping us manage demand during times of highest energy use.
Awesome. On the rebate program, that's a good deal. Do you work with any vendors or the contractors? Are they aware of that? Or is that something that they can promote to the customer when they redo?
Absolutely. We have certain vendors we use for the AC program, for the pool pump. We have approved vendors on our list. That's what we're working on now, is to get those lists and things updated for 2022. The appliance program, so the washers and dryers, the purifiers, those will be at different major appliance vendors.
Okay, so everybody's aware that that's available, and they can
end of the month. Yeah,
make that upcoming. That's going to be part of their sales program, I guess you could say.
Absolutely, the different vendors the different contractors are empowered to promote those programs and those rebates.
Okay, you mentioned $100 million for some of that program. Whose money's that?
It's money that it'll be funded through customers, but our goal is to offset those costs through other efficiencies.
Okay, so it's not, and there's no tax money in that.
No, it would be it'd be funded through NV Energy.
Okay, that was my question. And then the last kind of two things here. Does Nevada Energy have, what's the going forward thing with a plan? Is there significant plans to increase solar fields in the state of Nevada?
Yes, there is. We have invested, we're investing now in additional solar-owned large-scale solar. We're currently served total in renewable energy, so that includes solar, large-scale solar, geothermal, biomass, waste heat. We have 57 projects currently in development. That also includes solar plus storage. At the end of last year, the PUCN approved 2 new solar plus storage projects that will be located in Valmy, Nevada. Once those are built, they're actually going to help us replace our coal plant. They're going to replace the only coal plant we have remaining, NV Energy has remaining in the state. We have more solar and storage projects that are currently in development, will be coming online over the course of the next several years. So it's definitely a big part of our plans.
Okay, and then the next one on that, then Nevada Energy will be carbon-free in production, no gas, no coal.
Our goal right now is to serve our customers with 100% renewable energy. It's a long-term goal. We're on track to meet the current renewable portfolio standard of 50% renewables by 2030, but we're definitely supportive of our state's goals to be carbon neutral, to be carbon.
Okay, and then as an entity, does Nevada Energy have a position on nuclear power?
Right now, some of our partner or affiliate companies, we're a part of Berkshire Hathaway Energy, and some of those utilities, there's a solar project, a nuclear project being piloted now in Wyoming. But for Nevada, there's not an appetite for nuclear. We know that there's not a lot of water right now to support nuclear as it stands today, and so we're seeking other sources of clean energy to serve our customers.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good answers.
Thanks.
Anyone else have questions? I have one for you, Ms. Schurer. We know in California they have a lot of blackouts. When Nevada Energy plans to do this, how much notice do you give? And if there are people in that area who must have power because of a medical issue, how do you address that?
So now, as I mentioned, we're working right now to make sure we have enough power of our own generation as well as market purchases to serve our customers during times of demand. But things like wildfires, like last year, impact our ability sometimes to get that power transferred to our customers. So, and obviously the demand across the West may impact our ability to get the power to our customers. Last year and the year before, we had to implement what we called calls for conservation. They were voluntary calls for conservation, and we communicated those requests to our customers via text message, via email, via phone, as well as a lot of social media, getting it on the news, working with other PIOs from county agencies, city agencies to help get the word out as needed to their channels, working with our nonprofit partners to spread the word about that request, to lower your energy use. A lot of those same tips I talked about, but during a certain period of time, and that time I believe was 5 to 9, 6 to 9, for the certain days where the risk was the highest between having enough supply to meet demand. What I said, that was a last resort, and that was really done out of an abundance of caution, just to make sure we could meet the energy needs of our customers. If we did need to go into, we call them load shed events. I think a lot of people call them rolling blackouts. A load shed event would be something that we would work to give as much notice as possible to the customers. And once again, it would only be during those times of highest risk. And it would be the way a load shed event works is we would turn off power for about an hour to a certain number of customers based on capacity, and then there would come back up, and then we'd go to another customer for about an hour. So if it's a true load shed event, our plan, as it stands now, would be set about a short outage for a large number of customers, based on how much energy they're using. But places like hospitals, major infrastructure, water pumping plants, sanitation stations, police stations would not be impacted by these load shed events. So we would determine based on that, like where we'd have to implement them. So the goal is to use that same communication method, the calling, the texting, the email, to notify customers in advance, if possible, of some imminent load shed opportunity. That's why it is important, that we ask all customers to make sure we have their most updated information. You can go to nvenergy.com/myaccount to make sure we have your current mobile phone number, the one that you want us to text you on, an email address that you check, that we can provide information to you. If you don't want to go on my account, you can always call us and give that information to our customer service team as well.
Thank you. My concern for the blackouts would be for like senior care facilities, long-term care, Alzheimer care, facilities like that, who they have so many residents, that need electricity, for their oxygen and other medical things. So how would you handle that? Or do you shut it off to those facilities, or do you bypass them as you do, like, say, a hospital?
Yeah, we haven't had to have a load shed event, at least in the 13 years that I've been with the company, but that's a really good question. So I'll bring that back to the team and see if they're treated like a hospital or another critical facility would be.
Thank you. Dr. Wand, a question?
Yes, Austin Wand. I was just curious, does NV Energy get any energy from hydroelectric power? And is there a risk of, like, some areas where the reservoirs are going so low, they're concerned that they might have to lose hydroelectric power?
I know specifically, we get a little bit of power from the Hoover Dam, but it's not a very large percentage. And I know across the West it is a concern. I'd have to check and see how much of our power does come from hydroelectric sources. But, I think that everyone's a little bit concerned about that and looking to offset with other sources of energy.
Anyone else? Forum members have a question? Seeing none, thank you very much, Ms. Shirk, for your presentation. We appreciate your time waiting to present, and we find it very informative. And thank you very much.
No, thank you for having me.
We're going to move on to item 6, an overview of climate change strategies for Nevada. We will receive this presentation from Dr. Stephanie McAfee, Nevada State climatologist and assistant professor at the University of Nevada, Reno. She will provide us with an overview of climate change strategies for Nevada and how this relates to senior citizens. Ms. McAfee, please proceed when you are ready.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much. So I want to make sure we're correct here. I'm actually providing some background on some of the specific climate change challenges and not necessarily the strategies for avoiding those. I can talk a little bit to that if you'd like. But just to say thank you all for having me here. I'm Dr. Stephanie McAfee. I am the state climatologist for Nevada and an associate professor of geography at the University of Nevada, Reno. And I'm going to be pulling together some information for you about climate change challenges we expect in Nevada that may be especially pertinent for older adults. Now, much of the material I'm going to be showing you today is actually pulled from Nevada's climate strategy, which you can find at climateaction.nv.gov. Where I wanted to supplement, I'm using some information from the Environmental Protection Agency, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, and also the 2018 National Climate Assessment. And one thing I did want to let you know about the climate initiative is that particularly the climate change section was written by scientists at Nevada's research centers, so the major research universities, the Desert Research Institute, and the California Nevada Applications Program, which is a university NOAA partnership. So a lot of this information was coming from Nevadans for Nevadans. Now, as I look at the climate projections, some of the major challenges I see for everyone, and especially for older adults, are increases in extreme heat, worsening and perhaps more frequent drought, increased potential for wildfire, and potential decreases in air quality. And what I'll do for all of these is show you a little snapshot of how things have changed over the last roughly 130 years for which we have okay data, and then also show you what we're projecting to happen in the future. So in terms of extreme heat, well, we know that statewide temperatures are increasing. So what I'm showing you here are statewide average annual temperatures. And what you can see here is that temperatures in recent years have been 2 to as much as 3 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than the 20th century average. And in fact, 8 of the 10 hottest years were actually in the last decade. To fill those out, we have to go back to 2003 and then to 1934, which is actually a noted very hot year in the midst of the Dust Bowl. So this means as well that daytime highs are getting higher. Here you can actually see that 1934 popping up as still the hottest high temperatures on record in terms of the statewide average. But also that our nighttime lows are increasing as well. You can see that for most of the 20th century, statewide average low temperatures hovered around 36 for the full year. In the last few years, they've been up over 38, and in some cases over 39 degrees Fahrenheit. And 2 or 3 degrees Fahrenheit may not seem like a huge difference, but in terms of annual average temperatures, it is actually a pretty significant shift. Now, as these average temperatures are going up, what we also see is that very hot days. So these are days where the temperature is over 95 degrees. I know that might not seem that hot if you're in Las Vegas, but as it's a decent target for statewide. We know that these hot days are becoming more common. So if we're comparing the last roughly 20 years to the 1980s and 1990s, we're typically seeing a couple more days to maybe a week more every year on average, where the temperatures are exceeding 95 during the day. We're also seeing, and this is especially in Southern Nevada and Clark County, an increase in the number of warm nights. So these are those nights when it doesn't get below 65 at night, and it might be difficult to cool your house off by opening up the windows. So between the 80s and 90s and roughly the last 20 years, we've actually seen about 12.5 more of these really warm nights across Clark County. Now, as we look towards the future, we expect that average temperatures will increase. So on the left, you can see what we're calling the near term, sort of the next few decades. We expect temperature increases of about 4 to 6 degrees Fahrenheit. By the end of this century, we might see temperature increases of, say, 6 to 8 degrees if emissions are lower, to as much as 10 or 12 degrees if by the end of this century, if emissions are higher. And just as a point of reference, the average temperature in Las Vegas is about 15 degrees higher than the average temperature in Reno. So 12 degrees is most of the way to making someplace like Reno look a lot more like someplace like Las Vegas. And as those average temperatures go up, we're going to see increases in the number of those very warm days and very warm nights. In the next few decades, we might expect anywhere from another week to 3 weeks a year where temperatures are over 95, and maybe somewhat smaller increases in the number of warm nights. But by the end of the century, we could see even larger increases in those really hot days. Under a low emission scenario, it might be a few weeks a year, a few more weeks a year when it's over 95. Under a really high emissions scenario, we might expect maybe another 70 or more days per year when it's over 95. Right? And in fact, we also expect that urban heat islands, where simply the presence of a city makes it warmer, could exacerbate this problem. One of the previous speakers mentioned this as well. But what we can see here is that the temperature, for example, at the airport in Las Vegas has warmed substantially more than the temperature outside the city. I think this is at the Desert National Wildlife Refuge, So they've both been increasing since the mid 40s, but the city has been warming more. And we see a similar situation in Reno where the city itself is warming more than the areas around it, even though the areas outside the city are also warming up. Now, we know that extreme heat poses many risks. Obviously, there are physical and mental health implications of extreme heat, and we know that older adults can be physically more sensitive to very high temperatures. Of course, there are financial consequences as well, trying to keep a house cool and comfortable during the extreme heat. And we also can see infrastructure damage during very extreme heat events, particularly in places that weren't engineered for those very high temperatures. Now, the next hazard we're thinking about really is drought. And so this is actually a pretty interesting finding. If we look back to about 1895, we've seen that statewide average precipitation doesn't have a trend. It hasn't been decreasing. So 2020 was the driest calendar year on record for us statewide. But higher temperatures tend to increase atmospheric demand. So they dry things out more effectively and faster, right? So just like your laundry would dry faster if you hung it out on a warm day than a cold day, what we see is that when temperatures go up, it dries out soils and plants faster, and the atmosphere is much more effective at evaporating moisture out of streams and reservoirs. And so what we have seen is that evaporative demand has increased. Now, on average, a few millimeters a year, which might not seem like a whole lot, but one thing we've seen is that these increasing temperatures, coupled with precipitation that stayed largely the same, has meant that we're really experiencing more drought in the state. So what I'm showing you here is the value of the Palmer Drought Severity Index. This is just a way of sort of quantifying drought using temperature and precipitation, and how that value for September, kind of end of the summer, driest part of the year, has changed, right? And what you can see is that since the mid-'80s, we've been seeing more years of drought in a row. So when these negative values colored in yellow are drought, and the green values are not drought. But we've been seeing more years of drought in a row, and they're broken up by fewer wet years, right? And so fewer long stretches of wet years. Okay. And so keep in mind, this is with no real consistent long-term change in precipitation. This is really showing us a lot about those rising temperatures. Now, on top of this, across much of the West, snowpack has also been decreasing. So here where you're seeing those red dots, you're seeing long-term snow measurements looking at probably April 1, negative trends in the amount of snow. Now, at some real high elevation sites, you see these blue dots where snowpack has been increasing just a little bit. And that's actually important because here, in most of the Western US and certainly in Nevada, we rely on the snowpack to act as an extra reservoir that we didn't have to build and we don't have to maintain. So you can see this example here is showing water storage in the reservoir part of Lake Tahoe. So just the area above the natural rim in this blue shading. The gray shading is that normal lake storage plus snowpack. And you can see that in parts of the spring, we're storing about as much water in the snow as we are in Lake Tahoe's reservoir. So if we're reducing the amount of snowpack we have, it reduces our water storage to kind of carry us through the summer when we're not getting as much rain and snow. Now, as we look to the future, precipitation might increase in northern Nevada anywhere from 5 to maybe 20%, depending on how far in the future we're looking and what kind of emission scenarios we're following, sort of a low emission scenario indicated by RCP 4.5 or a higher one indicated by 8.5. Now, southern Nevada, however, is looking a little bit more likely to get less precipitation in the future. Maybe not huge changes, you know, a drop of 5 to 10%. But of course, in an already dry place, you really don't want to be giving up any precipitation. Now, on top of that, as it continues to warm, we expect that evaporative demand is likely to increase. Again, you know, not enormous, 5, 10, 15%, maybe a little bit more by the end of this century if emissions are high. But if we look at these pretty modest changes in precipitation with warming, we expect that there will be more drought. So these maps are showing a slightly different drought index, SPEI. It's somewhat similar to that Palmer index I showed you before. And what this is showing is that average conditions by the end of this century might be in, if you've ever looked at the drought monitor, what we would call a severe or extreme, or even under high emissions, an extreme drought. And this would be drought kind of on par to what we've had the last couple of years in Nevada, that those might become more like the average conditions. And warming will also mean that irrespective of whether the overall amount of precipitation changes, more of it's going to come as rain and less as snow. So we're looking at a situation where our droughts might be longer and a little deeper, and we don't have that sort of bonus reservoir storage in the snowpack. And one of the reasons I'm concerned about drought going forward is really that it impacts our electricity production. Right, we've just talked about this. Obviously, as our reservoir levels drop, hydropower is not going to be as effective. And the other thing to be concerned about is that as stream levels are lower and maybe the water temperatures in those streams warm up, even thermoelectric plants that might rely on water for cooling might not be as efficient. Now, one other consequence of drought is that some of our Nevada ecosystems are more prone to wildfire when it's dry. So drought can really dry out vegetation, especially in some of the higher elevation forests. And so fire is a potential concern as we go forward as well. So if we look back to the early 1980s, we can see that the area burned by wildfires in the US has been increasing. And this is some data that the EPA has conveniently put together. And the fire season has gotten longer. I think we're all starting to see more of these spring fires show up. There was one actually just yesterday and last night in Southern California. And the fire season is starting to extend a little bit longer into the fall as well, with just those warmer and drier conditions and the earlier melt out of the snowpack. And many of the largest increases in area burned have been in the West. So obviously that's impacting us here in Nevada, but also it is it's even worse in California. And of course, when there are fires in many parts of California, we get the impacts here, as the gentleman from Washoe County and Clark County were talking about. We get those air quality impacts from being downwind of fires in the Sierra. Now, as we look towards the future, we expect the number of high fire risk days to increase, right? So these are those days when it is very hot and dry and maybe windy on top of that. So it doesn't mean there will be a fire, but if there is a fire ignition, it could spread more readily, or the fire could become more severe more quickly. And so we're looking at increases of anywhere from 20 to, by the end of the century, under high emissions, perhaps 50 or 60 more of those high fire risk days on average. Right, and of course, fire does have widespread impacts. There's a direct hazard, right? People might need to evacuate to get out of the way of a fire. Fire can disrupt electrical distribution. We also are starting to think increasingly about post-fire hazards. So after an area has been burned, something like a debris flow might be more likely. We can also get sediment into reservoirs, which can impact water quality, right? And of course, one of the immediate concerns from fire is also air quality. I think many of us had the joy last summer during the Caldor and Dixie fires of experiencing many days on end of air quality that was in the unhealthy, very unhealthy, or even hazardous range. Okay, and if we have more potential for wildfire in the future, we have more potential for some of that particulate matter impact on air quality. Now, ozone concentrations may also increase. As you heard earlier, we tend to see ozone production ramp up when temperatures are higher. Now, in our case, these are some projections from the National Climate Assessment. It looks like Nevada may actually do fairly well with if ozone does increase, that those increases related to rising temperatures may be relatively small. So just to quickly recap here, and I tried to kind of go through this all quickly because I know it's been a long morning for all of us. Some of the real challenges we're looking at here in Nevada are things like more extreme heat, more drought, the potential for more wildfire, and also related to that, the potential for reductions in air quality. Now, I also wanted to say thank you again for having me here to speak about this. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those at this time.
Thank you so much. Dr. McAfee, for your presentation. It was very enlightening, very concerning about the drought that we are experiencing at this point. Forum members, do you have questions?
This is Lucille. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yes. What do you think will be the solution if it gets hotter and drought increases? What can we do?
Well, there are a number of different solutions, and I expect we'll probably need to sample from all of them. Certainly, many of our water providers in the state are really innovative in their conservation strategies. Southern Nevada Water Authority in particular is a noted conservation leader and are really thinking about ways to help people use less water while maintaining a high quality of life. So that might be changing outdoor landscaping to be lower water use, right? So using native desert landscaping instead of really high water use plants, reducing the areas of grass, thinking about covering pools to reduce evaporation from the pool during the hot part of the day. There are options as well for reducing water use in the home. If it's time for a renovation, going to lower water use fixtures, right? Whether that's a front loading washing machine that's using much less water to get a load of clothes clean, or some of the lower gallon per flush toilets now. Some of our, the older models were 6 or 7 gallons per flush, and you can get down 1.5, 1.6 gallons per flush now. There are also some improvements in irrigation that can help our farmers use less water when they're irrigating their crops. Okay, and so I don't know if that answers your question, or if you were thinking about some other options for kind of drought mitigation.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aden. Any other questions?
Jack Ginter, for the record. I have a question.
Go ahead.
With regard to drinking water, has there ever been any consideration for desalination plants off the West Coast, and also for energy, building some type of a reservoir to take advantage of waves or the tides going in and out to produce energy?
So I will say this, there are some desalinization plants already up and running. One thing to know about desalinization is it's very energy intensive, right? So to remove the salt from ocean water to get it to drinking quality, it does tend to use quite a lot of energy. I can't speak to whether there are any plans for wave energy production off the West Coast, things that would be immediately pertinent to Nevada. Certainly there's technology out there to do that. And I believe it's being tested in some places. Whether that is something that's in our immediate future, I don't know.
How about aqueducts from up in the Columbia River?
This is again something that I believe has been talked about. And I would say the politics of moving water from the Columbia to Nevada is well above my pay grade.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'd like to thank you very much for your presentation, Dr. McAfee. It was very informative, a little bit scary, but we appreciate you bringing all this information. Thank you very much. For members, we will move now to agenda item 7, about the roles of the facilitators. Many of you know that the facilitators are elected officials of this forum. We have not had much chance to have them understand and know exactly what the duties are. This came about in 2021? Yeah, in 2020. And then, of course, with COVID, we didn't have any meetings. So I kind of wanted to go over so that all the forum members understand what the roles and responsibilities are. In your packet is a paper that talks about the roles and responsibilities, methods to gather information on issues of importance to senior citizens, and sample questions. I ask that this be included so that all forum members would be able, when they're in their districts, in their communities, and are speaking with seniors, to gather information to help the facilitators. The facilitators will provide periodic reports at our meetings with information on the issues of importance to senior citizens within our state. We do have Ms. Aden from District 13 in Northern Nevada and Ms. Tyler of District 1 in Southern Nevada. Now, we understand that 2 people cannot possibly cover the whole state. So as part of the goals for the forum to accomplish in the near future, I would like each of the forum members to have a part in assisting with these reports in coordination with our Vice President, Dr. Jordan. Dr. Jordan is going to take the lead with helping the facilitators and each of you gather information that is important to seniors so that the facilitators and Dr. Jordan will be able to give us a report at our meetings so that we can make an informative decision as to what BDR we would like to ask for the next session. We only have our June, July, and August meetings to accomplish this, as we must have our BDR in place no later than September 1 in order to have it at the next legislative session in 2023. Does anyone have any questions or anything that you could add that would help our facilitators? This is all very new to the forum. Like I said, we have not actually had a chance to put this in place. I know that as seniors, we are out in our community visiting, the senior centers, maybe as the long-term facilities open, that we can visit and see what the concerns are, our church, our friends, wherever we are in the community. If we can talk to seniors and find out what is important to them, what would they like to have us make into a law that will help them. We've had a lot of presentations already, and we will be having more. We are only, as a forum, allowed one BDR. So we're going to have to narrow it down to what we think is very important and would help in our senior communities. So I would like to hear at this time from Ms. Aden, if she has any ideas or anything she would like to add.
No, Madam President, I think you covered it, and I was concerned about how we gather the information, and do I have to do it all? So I think the ideas that we have will help me a lot with reporting in our district.
Thank you. Ms. Tyler?
No, I think you basically covered it all, you know. The only thing I would add is, you know, if you do visit senior centers and say townhouse meetings and things of that nature, to let us know, gather information and let us know as soon as possible so we can compile it. The other thing too, I would ask for it to be specific. When I say specific, things that we can actually work on and do something about, and that we can request information beforehand so we can compile a report.
Thank you. Questions? Mr. Toth?
So, Madam Chair, let me clarify here. So the facilitators are actually us, some of us. Is that correct? Yeah. That's, I mean, it's any members of this forum can be facilitators, correct?
Yes. However,
So there could be more than the two that we have now. Is that correct?
no, we only have two by law.
Okay.
It is in law that we have two.
Okay.
However, when this law was put into effect, I don't think that it was thought through that two people cannot cover a whole state.
Okay. But
So what I am asking is for each of us, if we have an idea or a concern, that we bring it to our facilitators and Dr. Jordan so that they can compile a report to give at our meeting. As we are in the community, you know, and we have an issue or a concern that we may be able to affect, you know, by putting something into law, that's really what this is about.
okay, okay, so that answers that. But the rest of us obviously are part of the tasking should be to be part of and help with that. So then my next question would be, is there a way with this form that we can, as a group, pretty quickly here, decide on 2 or 3 things that could be looked at and then identify the one, because one of our charters is to come up with some kind of proposed legislation to try and expedite this some way, come up with, you know, here's 3 things, make a vote, press on, help these people facilitate that so that we come up with some kind of draft legislation. Am I missing something?
That is my goal.
Okay.
Because 2 people, one person in the north and one person in the south, could not possibly speak with as many seniors as we can as a group. And as a group, if we share those ideas, you know, then hopefully we will come to a decision as to what our BDR should be. Yes, Dr. Wand?
Yes, I'd like to comment on that. I think there's very nice proposals that we've all talked about, like Mr. Toth mentioned. And I just want to comment that we should try to get out to talk to people that we can communicate with. And actually, I was very interested in this. I happen to have some political interests, but I think these kind of questions affect the entire community, and we need to be as bipartisan as we can. But I happen to be a member of a progressive club, and I just took a survey just very recently, this past Monday, and it wasn't a very large survey, but it was about 26 people, and I had them rank choices of 3 choices. I listed about 10 conditions, which I think pretty much all agree upon, and the results were that the ones that got the highest vote, interestingly, was concerned about climate change. And I'm in an adult retirement community, so everybody's over 55, and their biggest concern was 21 votes for climate change was the biggest issue. The second most issue of concern was because of the Roe v. Wade issue. There were concerns about women's reproductive rights and abortion issues. So there were 16 votes for that. And the third issue was for the economy and inflation, which I was kind of surprised. I thought that might be number 1, but at least amongst the progressive group, there is more concern about the climate. And I'd be interested in talking to a much larger group of the conservative club about what their membership would think, and I would try to be as bipartisan as possible. I probably wouldn't be able to go in there and conduct it with them, but I can talk to their members and see what there is. And this is a fairly large group, so this be a larger survey, and I think this is one way we can conduct it. And I did it with a paper poll, and people filled it out, and we just it was anonymous. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wan. That's a great idea to have a poll. Maybe we could put something together for a future meeting for that. Yes, Dr. Jordan?
For the record, Dr. Jordan, we are all here as ambassadors for seniors. That's our role. And our facilitators are going to be the chairs of getting the information that we provide and help them report out the kinds of issues and the kinds of things that are important to our seniors. And we need to work together as a team, not leaving all the responsibility to the facilitators, but all of us contributing what we believe seniors need. And that's the focus of what we will be doing for the next 3 sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jordan. Other questions? Ms. Maharis?
I wrote a proposal to the committee, to you, and our population is about 3.2 million in 2022. When the law was written, 1 representative each was probably fair. But since 3/4 of the population now is in Southern Nevada, why can't we have more help in Southern Nevada by appointing in committee operations at least 1 more facilitator, formal facilitator, to help Ms. Tyler. So I think it's a reasonable request that because we have 3/4 of the population here in Southern Nevada, that at least 1 more is certainly needed. Hello.
To answer you, Ms. Maharis, in law, in the NRS, it says 2 facilitators. However, Dr. Jordan, our vice president, has agreed to step up to help the facilitators with putting the information that all of us gather together for their reports. So I think we can do that by having our vice president, helping the facilitators. But NRS says 2, 1 for the north and 1 for the south. So we will have to stay with that at the present.
Why can't we have operations? Why can't we have internal operations decisions that would make a big difference, and especially in fairness. We don't have to change the law. It can be in committee or forum operations, as I understand it.
Thank you for your concerns, Ms. Maharis, but again, in NRS, it says a president, a vice president, and 2 facilitators for this forum. So as I stated, by our vice president, Dr. Jordan, stepping up to be a third person to help with this, I think we're still following the NRS.
Well,
I hope that answers your question.
Well, I'm just
Ms. Tyler?
I think it's very important that we as a committee, we as a committee let our communities, our district know that we are out there. We're out there to serve them, and we want to address the issues that they have. One of the main things that I found when I first started was a lot of people just didn't know we exist. So we need to make sure that people know we exist and that we are there for them. We need to put out there that we are the Silver Hair, committee, and we want to hear from them.
Thank you.
I have one suggestion after a bit of time here. It seems like the limitation of submitting one proposal to the legislature has my cynicism, which as if we are designed to give a voice but not be too much of a bother. And so I would suggest that one of the proposals be that we submit to the legislature an amendment to NRS 427 that increases the number of proposals that we could give to the legislature. I don't care if we go to 2 or 3, but 1 just seems absurd. Thank you.
To answer you, Mr. Marchant, Dr. Marchant, Dr. Jacinta did have a bill, and I don't remember what session it was, and to ask for more than 1 BDR, and we were turned down. It was, it did not pass. Dr. Jordan has a question?
I do. Marilyn Jordan for the record. We never really got into relating to facilitators and doing this work because of COVID. We never really followed up. So let's put our energy into working hard with the 2 facilitators and developing some data that suggests we need additional folks later on. But I believe that we should follow the law and give this a try. And I hope to be able to help facilitate this activity so that we can move forward, but we can let our community know that we're out there and we are doing the best work on their behalf. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Maharis?
I would just like to say that tradition is the open death's door to creativity and progress, and I agree with Dr. Merchant.
I'm sorry, we can't hear her.
I'm on. My mic is on.
Can you be closer to your mic? We did not hear what you had to say, Ms. Maharis.
Oh my. I just wanted to say that I agree with Dr. Merchant, and that tradition can be the closed door, I might say the door to death, to creativity and progress. Thank you. Did you hear me?
Thank you. Yes, we did. Thank you, Ms. Maharis. Any other comments, questions anyone have? All right. Agenda item 8 was for reports from facilitators. I'm not sure, do you have anything, Ms. Tyler?
As I spoke to you earlier about the issues that we had previously that we did not resolve before COVID, we need to revisit those. And the other issue that came up today is regarding the nursing home care and the cost of nursing home care. If we do address that, I would like some type of report or some type of input as to how skilled nursing facilities and other facilities is funded here, who actually pay for it. I don't believe in reinventing the wheels. I know that Medicare allots so many days for long-term care, and Medicaid varies from state to state. So who's funding what? I would like that information before we address that issue.
Thank you. We can check on that and look that up. Ms. Aden, did you have anything?
No, not really. Just there's a problem with transportation from some of the nursing homes. I think the area they said was too far out, so we need to look into that with the senior care transportation.
Thank you. We will research that also. We'll close that portion out. And the next item that we have is a very sad for me and for many of us who worked with Dr. Jacinta. Dr. Jacinta passed, and I would like to recall some of his work for the forum members. Many forum members may recall Dr. Jacinta's dogged tenacity in advocating for seniors in Nevada. His first meeting as a member of the Nevada Silver-Haired Legislative Forum was August 27, 2013, and he was nominated and chosen as forum president on August 25, 2015. Bills that he championed during his tenure were related to the Silver Alerts program and financing for social assistance programs to support senior citizens and other vulnerable populations. We are deeply grateful for the years of professional experience that he brought to the forum, for his insight into the health and well-being of older adults, and his dedication to serving seniors in Nevada. At this time, I would like for us to take a moment of silence to reflect on Dr. Jacinta's accomplishments and contributions during his service to the forum. Thank you. Would anyone like to offer any remarks in honor of Dr. Jacinta? Seeing none, we will now move to public comment. We will start with public comment from those in the physical locations and then move to public comment from anyone who has called in. Please remember to clearly state and spell your name for the record. Is there anyone in Carson City who would like to provide public comment at this time?
None.
No. Seeing none, Is there anyone in Las Vegas who would like to provide public comment at this time? I see no one in our audience here. Staff in our broadcast and production services, please add the first caller with public comment to the meeting.
Chair, your line is open and working, but you have no callers at this time.
Thank you. We will close public comment at this time. Are there any comments from the members of the forum before we adjourn? Yes, Dr. Wan.
For the record, Austin Wand. I was very impressed that I heard that RTC actually has a program where people that need special assistance, they can actually call in and they will actually send the transport to transport that person rather than having them to rely on the Uber or Lyft or a cab. I thought that was pretty impressive. I hope they can actually fund that program like that.
Thank you, Dr. Wan. Dr. Jordan?
Dr. Jordan, for the record, I want to extend our thanks and our appreciation to our new president for jumping in and moving forward and getting us on the move. She's doing a fantastic job, and we need to be there to support her 100%. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I was very nervous at our first meeting. That was quite a shock for me. I think I'm a little calmer this time. And I do thank you all for your cooperation and your support. I also like to thank our staff. They've done an awesome job putting together our materials and getting speakers. And I think they do an awesome job. This concludes our meeting for today. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, June 22nd, starting at 10 a.m. This meeting is adjourned.